Of course, of course. My corner, going into the championship rounds, they just kept yelling at me, you got to close the show. You got to win the championship rounds because they're not going to give it to you. You got to win the championship rounds because it was one round where, I dominated in the scorecards. They gave it to Canelo, and that just changed the whole mentality of the fight. They was just like, all right, you got to go out there and win these rounds. You got to go out there and win these rounds.
The night wasn't only about Crawford defeating Canelo. It was also about surviving the judges. In a surprising claim, Crawford admitted that even in a fight he clearly controlled, the scorecards nearly told a different story. His coach, Bernie, felt the same unease. From the very first round, he sensed something was off. Bernie recalled the tension in the corner. In the opening round, everyone was nervous because you could see they were trying to take it from us. When we heard that 115 to 113 score, it felt like they were setting up a robbery. For Crawford and his team, the challenge went beyond the man in front of him. The fight wasn't just physical, it became a battle to protect history from being rewritten by questionable numbers. Each round felt like a fight against both Canelo and the scorecards. The fear of being robbed hung in the air, making every moment in the corner as tense as the exchanges in the ring.
But listen, so we was worried they'd just give it to Canelo just for nothing. Just give it to him. So we had to, Bud came straight out. Did you see how he went out there and started? Went straight to him, set the tone.
Right away.
Oh, God.
He never chased him. He never chased him around the ring. Never.
No, Crawford never ran.
No, Canelo never chased.
Those words captured the raw reality of a corner battling more than just a man across the ring. They understood that a single scorecard could wipe away everything Crawford was fighting for. That fear became fuel, pushing Bud to seize control and refuse to let the judges dictate his destiny. Every exchange became proof that he wasn't going to leave the outcome in anyone else's hands. Amid that intensity, Crawford produced his defining statement inside the ropes. Even veteran trainer Robert Garcia added perspective, highlighting the holes in Canelo's game. His analysis suggested something striking, that without favorable judging, Canelo's style alone wasn't enough to carry him to victory.
He's fought the same way the last 4 or 5 fights, enough just to get the win, or maybe the judges to give him the win. Throws one punch at a time, so no. One punch at a time, looks for just that one part, he opens up, that hook he was throwing over and over, reaching in with that hook, keeping his chin up, his right hand down. There's a lot of things that you can't do over and over if you have a good game plan, if you have somebody giving you the right instructions. You can't do it over and over for 4 fights. There's got to be...
Garcia's breakdown made one thing clear. Canelo wasn't truly in control. He leaned on familiar patterns and seemed to rely on the scorecards to fill the gaps. It gave the impression of a system designed to keep him protected round after round. But Crawford's sharp adjustment shredded that safety net, leaving no doubt in the ring or on the cards that in the end, Bud proved that the truth couldn't be taken from him. Garcia also acknowledged that Crawford's discipline and relentless drive set him apart. He pointed out that the doubts surrounding Crawford didn't break him. They pushed him to train harder, sharpen his focus, and rise above every expectation.
He's very talented. He's a very disciplined fighter also. He's healthy. And, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, he hasn't fought, or he didn't look too good against Madrimov at 154. How can he look good? He's a talented fighter, and that challenge for him pushed him even harder to train harder and to be better. That challenge, went up against Canelo, moving up 2 divisions, hearing that people are saying, oh, he didn't look too good against Madrimov, so how could he look good at 68? Well, that motivated more, man. He trained hard. He did what he had to.
Perspective revealed the true hunger fueling Crawford's performance. He wasn't just fighting Canelo, he was silencing every critic. The pressure of moving up in weight, seen by many as his biggest obstacle, became his greatest weapon. What was supposed to break him instead sharpened him into something unstoppable. On fight night, that fire left the judges with no excuse to deny him. Garcia then shifted focus to Canelo's camp, touching on the business decisions and preparation behind the fight. His comments suggested there were cracks in the game plan, flaws that may have left the door wide open for Crawford to capitalize.
They've made a lot of money together, and that's what they're all about, the business. I I don't think they took the fight lightly because they couldn't have, but because Canelo, from what I hear, is very disciplined, trains very hard. But I think when it came to the game plan or the instructions, could have been a little bit better.
They've added another layer to the story. Canelo may have been disciplined, but discipline without the right plan is never enough. It highlighted just how much was riding on politics, money, and reputation, forces outside the ropes. And yet, even with all that weight behind him, Crawford tore the script apart. Teddy Atlas didn't hold back when breaking down Crawford versus Canelo. He made it clear that from the moment the fight was signed, he already understood the danger Canelo was walking into. In Atlas's eyes, Crawford's precision, timing, and refusal to be intimidated were the exact tools needed to dismantle boxing's biggest star.
You know, I've been on the wrong side, but it's nice to be on the right side. But I felt like I was on the right side. I felt the way Crawford felt. What people ask me, Teddy, when did you know? When were you were so sure he was going to win this fight? You were saying it, a year ago or more. When did you know that he was going to win this fight, that there was no one else? You said nobody can win this fight, only one guy. And he's going to win it convincingly, easily. When did you know that? And I'm gonna say what I really mean, but also what I understand Crawford said. But I said it myself before. I knew when he signed the contract. when he signed the contract, I knew that Canelo was making a mistake. That he had no idea, like he didn't have an idea what Beaver was. He had no idea. And unfortunately, the judges did the same thing they did in the Beaver fight. They scared the crap out of us. They made us realize they were going to rob him if he didn't destroy him, if he didn't dominate. Dominate! I mean, are you kidding me? He dominated!
His words showed the level of certainty only a veteran eye can bring. He wasn't just predicting Crawford's win. He was warning that the judges could turn it into another nightmare. Like so many controversial nights in boxing, the fear of robbery loomed large, forcing Crawford to leave nothing to chance. It was dominance or disaster, and Atlas knew it from day one. That's why every round carried the weight of history to in the end. Crawford's performance proved Atlas right and silenced every doubt. As the fight ended, Atlas broke it down with brutal honesty. He admitted what everyone watching already knew. Crawford's control was absolute, round after round, but dictated the terms, leaving Canelo with little more than survival. What was supposed to be a test of greatness turned into a one-sided masterclass.
I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to give Canelo 2 rounds. 2 rounds! And I'm being nice. I'm not being a wise guy. I'm being honest. I'm being a professional. He won maybe. And if you want to make it a shutout, I wouldn't say you were crazy. Because I don't think I'm crazy. Just a little bit angry sometimes because of my sport that I love. That if he doesn't dominate the way he did, they're going to give it to Canelo. The way that one judge tried to make it a close fight against Mayweather many years ago. Are you kidding? The way the Beaver people... In the Beaver fight, I thought Beaver won 10 rounds. They tried to do the same thing. 115, 113? Are you kidding me? Maybe they just don't understand math. Maybe they think that I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they think 115 is 119. Maybe, it's different kinds of, numeral. The way they came up with the numerals, with the math, maybe that's what it is. Maybe, I don't know.
Atlas's frustration cut deep, not at the fighters, but at the sport itself. He reminded fans how fragile victories can be when judges twist numbers on the cards. To him, this wasn't just about winning. It was about exposing a system that had robbed fighters before. Crawford had to dominate every second to protect what was rightfully his. And in Atlas's eyes, that's exactly what he did. It was proof that the only way to beat corruption was with unquestionable greatness. Before the fight, Atlas had already told Stephen A. Smith why he believed Crawford was different. For him, Bud wasn't just another fighter. He was built on another level. Atlas compared him to the rare few who rise when everything is stacked against them. Fighters who don't just compete. They impose their will on his wasn't only in speed, timing, or power. It was in his mind, his patience, and his refusal to let outside forces write his story. In Teddy's words, Bud didn't just beat Canelo. He beat the game.
Stephen A. Smith, I did a segment with him. A lot of people saw it the day before. And, I said, I like Crawford. I like Crawford, like I said, when his contract was signed, when it was, and then he was a bigger favorite. He was a bigger underdog. He was a bigger underdog. He was 2-1 at one point, if I remember correctly.
And it closed at closer to plus 135, plus 140.
Yeah. Once people knew who I was picking. I'm kidding. But I was telling Stephen A. Smith, he said, Teddy, why do you like him so much? I said, why do you like 3D TV more than regular TV? Because it's 3D! Because it's got more dimensions to it. Why do you like digital better than Betamax? I still use Betamax. I gotta tell you, I still got a fax machine, Rich. I do. I got a fax machine. I'm old fashioned. What are you gonna do? But you remember VHS, VHR, whatever it's called, right? All that stuff. Betamax, and then it went to digital. I was the last guy at ESPN, the whole campus, that still got sent VCR tapes. They had to send them to me. I had a cassette player. I put them in. I didn't know how to do digital, but digital, it's the way to go, babe. It's the way of the future. It's faster. It's quicker, right? You got all the stuff in the air, going through the air. That's Crawford.
Atlas's explanation painted Crawford as something unique in today's boxing. Where others were predictable, Crawford brought layers, depth, and angles that left opponents lost. Atlas made it clear this wasn't a gamble. It was certainty. He saw in Crawford qualities that judges couldn't deny no matter how hard they tried. That faith wasn't blind hype. It was the eye of a trainer who's seen champions rise and fall. To Atlas, Crawford wasn't just a contender. He was a future written in real time. And when he compared Canelo and Crawford, he kept it fair but firm. Canelo, he said, was great, but Crawford was greater in the one area that mattered most. Canelo fought within patterns, relying on habits that had worked for years. Crawford broke patterns. He adjusted, reinvented, and forced opponents to fight a battle they weren't prepared for. That was a difference. One man depended on what he already knew. The other wrote nuances every round. And when the fight was over, that difference wasn't theory anymore. It was truth carved into boxing history.
Today I said, Canelo's a nice, solid guy. He went nuts. Solid! He goes, Teddy, he's Canelo. I said, he's a solid guy. His technique, his basics are solid. His fundamentals are solid. He's strong. He's physical. He's moved up and become, solid at a heavier weight than when he started in his career. He's grown into it. He's got great experience. All of that. He's a good, solid guy. I'm not knocking him. In the old days, that was the greatest compliment that the people in my business could give you. Guy's a solid guy. Can fit in with anyone. He knows how to fight. He's a solid guy. But he's not digital. There's only a few guys that are digital.
Demetrius Andrade admitted his first impression shifted as the fight went on. At first, he thought Canelo's pressure and experience might trouble Crawford. But round by round, Andrade saw something different. Crawford wasn't just reacting, he was dictating. He neutralized Canelo's rhythm, took away his best weapons, and forced him to fight uncomfortable in spots where he's usually dominant. Andrade pointed out how Crawford's timing became the true equalizer. Every adjustment was a step ahead, every counter a reminder that Canelo couldn't control the pace. What looked like a close fight in the opening round slowly turned into a one-sided showcase. To Andrade, that was a genius of Crawford. He let the fight tell its own story. At first, it looked competitive. By the end, there was no doubt who owned the ring.
I figured that at first I was thinking, you know what, it's gonna take, a while for that fight to develop in a later round. And if Terence can take some shots, he'll be able to, pretty much outwork and move and be able to, hit him with some counter shots. And pretty much that's what it was. At first I didn't know if he would be able to take the heavier shots, but then I realized, like, you know what, Canelo, yeah, he's a big guy, but he's not really a big guy when it comes to somebody like a Terence who's like has reach, has length, in that aspect, and that can put on the size, and also can box. And he did a great job. When you watched it, he did a great job. He kept with a great strategy, staying outside.
Andrade emphasized that Crawford never rushed. He didn't fall into the trap of trying to match Canelo's power shot for shot. Instead, he stayed calm, picked his moments, and made every punch count. That patience wore Canelo down mentally, forcing him to chase instead of control. Andrade noted that this was a difference. Canelo was relying on bursts of power, while Crawford was crafting a masterpiece over 12 rounds that he called it one of the smartest performances he's seen at the elite level, saying Crawford fought like a man who understood exactly what was at stake. The judges, the politics, the crowd, none of it mattered. Bud's game plan stripped all of that away and left only the truth in the ring. For Andrade, it wasn't just a great win. It was a blueprint for how to beat not only Canelo, but the system that has long protected him.
Kept with a great strategy, staying outside, using his reach, moving when he needed to move, and those moments where he needed to make them count, he made them count because he was able to, because the southpaw, the combinations when he had the chance to let them things go, he did that. He held his ground. He showed that he can get underneath, clinch, hold, and show that he also has the will and power to, keep his ground. So man, he did a great job fighting Canelo.
Andrade admitted that while Canelo's power was real, it was often overstated. He explained that true danger comes when power is combined with timing and creativity, and that's where Crawford held the edge. Canelo's punches, though heavy, became predictable, and against a fighter like Bud, predictability is a death sentence. Andrade suggested that the aura of Canelo's knockout power may have carried him through past fights, but Crawford exposed the limits of that myth. For Andrade, this fight proved that what separates good from great isn't just strength, it's adaptability. Crawford absorbed Canelo's best shots, adjusted on the fly, and turned the fight into a chess match that Canelo couldn't win. In doing so, he stripped away the mystique of Canelo's power and replaced it with a new truth, that Crawford's skill made him untouchable, even against boxing's most celebrated puncher.
I'm not saying, I don't think Canelo's the hardest hitting puncher out there. My damn self, like, at the end of the day, yeah, everybody can, knock somebody down or, get knockouts, but we haven't seen Canelo really put people out consistently like a Triple G, you know what I'm saying? Or like a Dimitri Beterbiev. Like, it ain't that type of situation. But I wasn't. He probably did. I did fight somebody that hits a little harder.
Spencer Oliver said Crawford's win was no shock. It was a natural outcome of styles colliding. He stressed that anyone who studied both fighters closely could see the blueprint long before the opening bell. Canelo's forward pressure and single-pace rhythm were always going to be tested by Crawford's timing, footwork, and ability to shift gears mid-fight. Oliver pointed out that Bud didn't need to do anything flashy. He just had to be himself, and that was enough to unravel Canelo's approach. For Oliver, the most telling detail wasn't that Crawford dominated. It was how calm he stayed while doing it. Round after round, Bud looked like he was in control of every decision, forcing Canelo into reactions instead of letting him dictate the fight. Oliver argued that this mental edge was just as important as a physical execution. He framed it as a difference between a fighter chasing moments and a fighter writing the whole script to eye in Oliver's eyes. Crawford didn't just win the fight. He proved that preparation, patience, and ring IQ can dismantle even the most decorated champions.
It was like we had watched a fight before it happened.
Absolutely.
Because that's the way it went.
In the presence of genius, and you don't even know it.
Absolutely. We actually called it. We said, look, listen, that Terence Crawford would build up an early lead, and when he had to bite down, when he had to do it, that 9th round especially, he stood there and showed that he could trade with him, and he could take the shots, and he could mix it. And the difference between the two was, like we said, Duke, was the combination punching, the ring control from Terence Crawford. They were all the question marks. Could he do that? Could he cope with the power of Canelo Alvarez, who's adapted now and had to adjust in his career? He now throws single shots. And that's why it was the calculated gamble. Well, it wasn't really a gamble because me and Simon called it from the beginning.
Right.
That we go, Mayweather ticks every department. You go, the only thing that people are hedging their bets on is that Canelo's the bigger guy, but he wasn't really anyway.
Nah.
You can see, because Crawford come down from 185 anyway, you can see the physicality's in there. He was all the size of...
Duke McKenzie's analysis cut straight to the heart of it. He explained that Canelo's predictable rhythm and flat-footed style were tailor-made for a fighter like Crawford, where others struggled to find openings, but thrived on patterns. Every time Canelo planted his feet, Crawford was already a step ahead, slipping shots, countering, and forcing him to reset. McKenzie emphasized that the fight was never about raw power, it was about adaptability. And that's where Crawford separated himself. While Canelo repeated the same sequences, Bud kept changing looks, switching stances, and making adjustments that left Canelo without answers. McKenzie's verdict was clear. If Crawford stayed disciplined, the fight was always as the win.to him. This wasn't just Crawford beating Canelo. It was a masterclass in how high-level boxing IQ dismantles brute force and reputation.
Edward said long before this fight, I just think styles make fights. In Canelo's style, this style of Canelo was suited for Crawford. He can't throw combinations anymore. There's no more head movement from Canelo. Yep. He tries to walk people down and hit you all over the body and all over the head if he can, but he can't put his combination. He can't sustain the combinations. And what really impressed me about Crawford was the fact that it was a question of he didn't want to trade off early with Canelo. He traded late with Canelo because he couldn't take his power early. So in the early rounds, he was just pity-patting and just tapping him, kept spinning him, kept turning him and driving him mad. And then in the later rounds, as Canelo started to fade, from round 7, round 8, as the pace got a little bit slower, then Crawford's confidence, he was confident enough within himself to stand and trade with him. And even when he got on inside, he was hitting him with 3s and 4s, hard shots, constant shots. He just kept spinning him, kept turning him, and Canelo didn't really know where he was. And another great thing about Crawford, stayed southpaw throughout the whole fight, and Canelo admitted after that he couldn't handle a southpaw.
Couldn't work it out
whatsoever.
Crawford's vision wasn't just confidence, it was prophecy. He laid out the switches, the adjustments, and the readiness to meet Canelo in any part of the ring. That mindset turned pressure into fuel, and when the fight came, it unfolded exactly as he said it would. Terence Crawford didn't just defeat Canelo, he overcame the system many believed was built to protect him. Even with judges keeping the cards close, his dominance left no room for doubt. But now the questions are yours to answer. Do you believe the judges tried to edge the fight away from Crawford? Was this the night he proved himself as the best fighter of this generation? And what does this mean for Canelo's legacy moving forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned, because the story of boxing is only getting more intense from here.